Hello! Welcome to 2021! The banana mug, and within it, a liquid personality, returns to my channel on this delightful, very late evening of the new year. Cheers, y'all, we made it! It's the end of a long day. I am a greasy mess. This eyebrow melted off like an hour ago, so whatever is happening here is just the best it's gonna get for the evening. But I did put on a good pirate sleeve, because I thought that would make me feel better. And honestly, I feel kind of great sitting here on the floor. Basically, this is just me replicating last year's mid-year book freakout tag, in which I also sat on the floor to give myself serotonin and drank coffee way too late at night out of a pink banana mug. And, you know, I'm having a great time so far. I actually already filmed this video, but I hated it. I know so many of us are supposed to be like, yeah, it's 2021, woo! But I think the majority of us are like, oh fuck, it's 2021, thank God we made it. We've gotten to the part of the evening where the caffeine has slowed down in my brain, so I can't really think straight, but I'm still sweating, you know? For the sake of time and my sanity, I pared this list down to 10, which was very difficult, but we managed to do it. Also, it's only gonna be young adult books, because if I put one regular adult book in here, people are gonna yell at me for not including all the other adult books. So maybe I'll do that as another video, or I'll do like an updated adults video. While the majority of 2020 was abysmal, but like fine, it also gave us a heckin' lot of good books, and I'm excited to chat about those tonight. So without further ado, and in no particular order, here are my top 10 books of 2020. For this first book, I just want to say, y'all are lucky that I managed to just sneak this in at the end of 2020, because without a doubt, A Sky Beyond the Storm by Safa Tahir was one of the best books of last year. This is the fourth and final of her Ember Quartet, which, if you don't know, I don't know why you wouldn't at this point. Her Ember in the Ashes series is a Roman-inspired fantasy world with Arabian-inspired folklore, and tells the story of a scholar rebel and a Roman warrior as they go to war, both magically and non-magically. The series was intense. There was a lot of blood, there's a lot of death, but there's also a lot of very interesting magic politics and really interesting battle strategies and tensions. I want to say that it cleared my skin and watered my crops, but honestly my skin's looking like pretty crappy right now. Though I do feel quite hydrated tonight. By the end of this book, I was just a snotty, puffy mess, sobbing my eyes out, because this book just did such a good job of bringing everything full circle and giving everyone a good storyline, like allowing people revenge or not allowing people revenge for different reasons, and just personal relationships came together and everyone got a good ending, and it was so upsetting. And I'm like, honestly, slow clap right now for Safa Tahir making me cry for the Commandant. If you have any idea what I'm talking about, just gotta slow clap it out. I had such a wonderful, if somewhat traumatic time reading this series, and I can't wait to see what she comes out with next. Ooh, this was a bad idea. I was sweating before I had caffeine, and now it's just getting worse. Alright, next one up on my list is one that I have a different kind of connection to than I have for the rest of them, and that is Witches of Ashen Ruin by E. Latimer. You know, E. Latimer, Aaron Latimer, my good friend, writer friend Aaron Latimer. I know her, and I got to see this book as it progressed, and it's so exciting to see it out on shelves now that you can go and buy with your own money dollars. This is about two rival covens of witches as they had to set aside their differences to help track down a black magic serial killer, and also it's a bit sapphic, and like, who doesn't love some sapphic witches in Ireland with Celtic folklore? So a really good portrayal about mental illness and multiple types of mental illness across the family, and like what magic will do to you once you have the power that it bestows. Because this came out at the very beginning of March, she squeaked in a book tour, and it was the last book tour that I got to go to before lockdown happened. Oh my god, that was almost a year ago. What is time anymore? I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. It was so fun to see her in person and get it signed and like see a reading. It was one of the best books of the year, and I wouldn't just say that because of it's my friend, but also like the experience behind it in my personal, professional book blogger opinion. You know me, I read up to or less than a contemporary a year, and this year I pushed myself and I read like a handful of contemporaries, and of that, The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper is now my new favorite contemporary. This is about a vlogger named Cal whose family is forced to move from New York City to the NASA base in Texas? I'm Canadian, I don't know where the Nassau base is. And they move when his father gets a spot on NASA's latest mission to Mars. So he's dealing with self-identity issues and family drama while also falling in love with one of the sons of the other astronauts and also having to deal with this reality show that's trying to film behind the scenes of the project. Just had such lovely themes of family and realizing that your parents are people too and they also make mistakes and they also have lives, along with how fame changes your life and what people expect of you in the public eye. And Leon and Cal's relationship is just so organic and sweet, and they actually talk to each other like real people should. Like, oh my god, communication, what a concept. It explores mental illness and alcoholism and expectations of the children of famous people. Plus, I interacted with Phil Stamper a little bit, like, when I was talking about this book, and he just seems like such a nice guy. And his new book comes out in February, I think, and I can't wait to get my hands on that one. It's a really sweet, good book overall. I really look forward to whatever he writes next. Something else I read a lot of this year were some sequels, which is like, I'm on a mission to start reading the sequels to things because I just like to buy the sequel and then not read it, but I did this year quite a bit. And there are a couple sequels on this list, and the first one that I want to freak out about is Aurora Burning by Amy Coffin and Jay Kristoff. Aurora Rising was like, okay, but it was good enough for me to pick up the sequel, especially considering that I love the authors and I love a good found family ragtag crew in space kind of adventure novel, and this book did everything right. This book outshone the first one by a good like 6 solar masses. It filled in gaps with backstories, it expanded on characters that I wanted to know more about, brought in the existentialism of space, it developed relationships more, it introduces some very interesting new characters I love the dynamics of, especially with the golden boy. It was so fast-paced and the stakes just kept getting higher, and I swear I was having heart palpitations up to the end of this book, and then the end of the book happened, and I think my heart stopped. I probably was legally dead for like a good minute. It is very rare that a book ending will make me want to throw the novel, but this book had me in distress. And I have absolutely no clue what the third book is going to entitle. I don't even know how it's gonna start, and that says something. You know, let's just go into the other sci-fi book on this list, shall we? Because, like, I'm not a big sci-fi reader. I like my sci-fi books to be, like, some laser fights, and then, like, some space mumbo-jumbo, and then, like, one existential comment from, like, one alien character, and then for the book to just go astrophysics, and I'm like, ah, yes, perfect. Got into some more sci-fi this year, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself with this next book, and I don't see it talked about very often. Ooh, you all are missing out. That is Seven Devils by Laura Lamb and Elizabeth May. I alternatively want to be a part of this world so badly, yet also am so very happy this doesn't exist. This is about Eris, who is the heiress, wow, it's difficult to say, the heir to a corrupt galactic space empire who fakes her own death to escape her fate, but I think we all know that doesn't go well for many people. She gets recruited into the rebel existence, and she and one of her fighter pilots steal a jet to help, only to find some stowaways that end up having a lot more information than they expected. This is a very bleak sci-fi world where across galaxies people have been programmed by this benevolent computer that's all being run by Eris's family. People are being grown in vats, and she's one of the only of her siblings to have survived, even though there's been like hundreds of them because all have to fight each other to the death. See, what this book does right is it balances that hardcore sci-fi stuff with the interpersonal relationships that I love so much. Especially with the side characters introduced, we have this interesting courtesan who knows a lot of secrets, and we have the rebel leader who's been through hell herself and back, and the hacker character, Ariadne, is my new baby cinnamon roll, and if you think that you can touch her, ooh, hands are gonna be thrown. A good amount of space fighting, but also intergalactic royalty politics, and like a little bit of alien civilization, existentialism, which gets real dark, but like, I like a real dark fantasy sci-fi book. Y'all are missing out. If you want a good found family in space adventure, but where everyone's like the worst, this is the book for you. Caffeine break at 2 o'clock at night. Oh god, I made that one. Alright, we're gonna switch this up with something very different that I also quite enjoyed in October of this year because I had to read Cemetery Boys by Anne and Thomas before Halloween. I don't make the rules, that's just how it goes. I'm sure everybody has heard about this because it was being hyped to high heaven on the internet, but in case you don't know, about a trans boy named Yidril who is having trouble with his Latinx family accepting his gender, and they also happen to be from a long line of witches. Yidril wants to do the ceremony as a brujo instead of a bruja, and when he does it by himself, he accidentally summons a ghost, and that ghost happens to be the bad boy boy of his school who happens to be really attractive, but also dead, so like that's kind of a problem. And himself, his friend Maritza, and Julian, the dead boy, all have to go on this kind of adventure to figure out who is killing off witches, as some soul stealing may be happening in their neighborhood. This is such a beautiful book about friendship and first love and like learning to accept yourself, love and family, and how those two things come together, but also how you pick your own family, Latinx culture and food and stories, and a look into the Mayan gods, which was a very cool touch. And maybe one of the sweetest book relationships I've read in so long. Julian and Yadriel together are so cute, and I absolutely love the fact that Yadriel's gender is just treated as like absolutely nothing, and Julian would fight to the death for him if he wasn't already dead. Like one of the first scenes where Julian learns that Yadriel is trans and that he went to his school, he like poltergeists himself to the yearbook and like scratches out his name and then writes Yadriel. It's like, oh my god, my heart's exploding. I will warn, this goes from 0 to 60 real fast at the end, which was a little bit like, okay. And it does have that slightly typical like rainbows and sunshine ending as a YA novel tends to have, but as this is a debut novel, very impressed, and I'm not gonna hold it against Aiden Thomas. I'm feeling witchy, as you can tell. Most of these books have witches or demons or something in them. Speaking of which, the next book on this list also involves witchcraft of some kind, but it was one of the books that I didn't expect to love as much as I did, and that is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. The magic, the tension, the food! This is about a girl named Amelia who comes from a long line of witches in a vaguely historical Italian world. But when she finds her twin sister dead, likely murdered by a demon, she goes on a hunt to find out who's killing witches, and in doing so, accidentally summons one of the demon lords of hell. See, tension in books usually comes from either the author or the character knowing something the other person doesn't. But in this book, it's all about what you know that makes it intense, because from the very beginning we're told, don't do this spell, carry these herbs on you, make sure you never utter this word, but then she does, and we all know what's gonna happen if it goes too far. So our character is towing this very fine line of magic where something could go wrong very, very quickly, and we all know that it's gonna be catastrophic consequences if she does. Paired with the fact that she is sassy as hell to this demon lord, which I absolutely love. She's very tricky with words and is very careful about towing that line, and the budding friendship and romance in this book keeps piling those stakes higher and higher. Also, we stan a fashionable demon prince. Like, if I had to go to hell for his wardrobe, you can bet I'd be on my way there right now. Now we get to play a fun game called Does My Camera Have Enough Battery for me to finish this video, and will I finish my coffee before it runs out? I guess we'll see. Another sequel that I want to talk about is one that really also surprised me. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, sequels are like, ooh, they're tricky to pull off. However, I'm so happy to say the sequel to The Merciful Crow, Faithless Hawk, did not do me wrong. Oh baby! The Merciful Crow is this very interesting society that's built on caste systems that are all named after birds, and they have a lot to do with teeth magic and bone magic, with like, ooh, sign me up for that. And our main character Fi is part of the Crow case that deal with the dead, and in our first book we had to smuggle out this Phoenix Prince, and it was a bunch of intrigue and court politics, but also like love. Margaret Owen took her own world and she blew it up. And then we get some of my favorite things, which are court intrigue and people pretending to be other people to infiltrate said court, all wrapped up in this beautiful bow of will they, won't they, star-crossed lovers, bone magic. She did such a good job both enriching this world, but also bringing everything full circle. Like, I remember I had chills reading the final couple chapters because of this callback that she did to the first book. I was losing my mind because it was just so intense. I mean, yeah, there was a plague in it, but like, there was a plague in a couple of the other books too, and like, what are you gonna do? To me, this is a very underrated duology, and it's now one of my favorites. I can't wait to see what else she comes out with. I know I'm saying with that for like a lot of these things, but truly I can't. Like, I love her world building. I think she's gonna do some great things. Second to last is just a stunning book, just in general, writing-wise, cover-wise. Let me just say, Where Dreams Descend is just, it's gorgeous. I heard someone say this was a book about magic circuses, and if I hear a book is about magic circuses, I want to buy it. It's about the star, the master, and the magician, where Kalia is a showgirl performing in a nightclub, and she wants more, so she escapes to this town where they are running the conquering circus, and she will do anything and everything in her power to make sure she is a star. On the other hand, we have DeMarco, who's a bit of a disgraced magician who is at butting heads with Kalia's new freedom. This was another book that did the enemies to lovers right, because a lot of the times when I hear enemies to lovers, it's two people that are being mean to each other and snarking at each other and suddenly they kiss. And I'm like, No, that's not what enemies to lovers means. The tension, the stubbornness, the unwillingness to admit to something, especially when you don't want to admit that you're attracted to somebody. I love their interactions. Talia is one of my new favorite characters. She is a strong female character in the way that she knows what she wants, and hell help you if you stand in her way. The magic in this world is so unique and interesting. I love the way that gender comes and plays a role in it. I love how much power is involved in that, and how what lengths will people go to gain that power. This book is about fighting to keep your place at somewhere that you do belong, but it's also about how that corrupts you and the dangers behind that as well. But it's all set across this beautiful network of stages and showmanship and flourish and red curtains and magic. This book needs to just take a bow. It's beautiful. Red roses, just throwing roses everywhere. Okay, I'm down to about this much coffee and about this much camera battery. So here we go. Lastly on this list of my top 10 books of 2020 is one that I finished also in December that I fell in love with. Oh my gosh, I had such a visceral reaction to the end of this book, and that is These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong. This is a Romeo and Juliet retelling, except it's in 1926 Shanghai during a highly politically volatile time, and the two star-crossed lovers are Juliet Kai and Roma Montagov, who are the heirs to rival drug lord gangs. If you're wondering about this book, yes. Do you know me? I'm an English major. I love me some Shakespeare retellings. I really do. This mix of cultures and perspectives just gives this richness and immersive feeling to the whole story. It's also a lot more political than I was expecting it to be, but I really enjoyed how she worked in the real world politics of that time into this book, especially how it affected Juliet, both being a woman, being someone who had gone to America, experienced racism, is having trouble fitting back in her own country, how the white men are taking away Chinese land, and it takes things from the original story, like names and some places and a couple of traditional scenes, like for example the balcony scene, but it gives it this great twist. For example, the balcony scene has a gun involved. Roma is this very sweet, unassuming boy who would do anything for his sister and his family, but still holds that expectation of his gang lord father. And then Juliet is this ruthless killer who I quite enjoyed. Seeing the two of them be the star-crossed lovers was just a great progression, as the two of them have to work together to solve this string of magical murders. Oh yeah, there's also murders and some kind of like really weird monsters. Like, I haven't been out of school that long, but like I don't remember there being a monster in the Shakespeare story. It might be wrong. Borrows enough from the original to be a retelling, but it also focuses on issues that are prevalent today, but it also focuses on multiculturalism and like this beautiful story that she herself has crafted out of Chinese folklore. It's gorgeous. What an amazing debut. Whew, okay. We did it! There are my top 10 favorite books of 2020. Oh my god, there were such some good ones this year. Actually, I do want to do 2 honorable mentions. Which is like cheating a little bit, but it's my video, so I can do whatever I want. Quickly give a shout out to A Heart So Fierce and Broken, which is the sequel to Our Curse So Dark and Lonely by Grave Kemmerer, which I want to mention because I love the way that she expanded this world. This is another retelling of Beauty and the Beast, but whereas there were some cool twists in the first one, she really expanded the world and like made it her own series in the sequel. Can't wait for the third one. That comes out very soon. And then also A Song of Race and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown, which is a beautiful West African fantasy novel with a really cool new pantheon of gods to follow, with a reluctant princess and a sacrifice tournament and people faking magic, and then some deals with demons, because like there has to be at least one deal with demons on this list. You know I love some of those. I truly could go on because there's so many more that I read this year, but I need to like rein myself in. Also, it's like really late at night and I'm really sweaty. Banana Mug, you've served me well yet another year. Please leave down below your own favorites of 2020. Like, there was a lot on this list that I did not include. I did include some sequels because I didn't get to reading them. I know there was a couple of like really big name books that I also just like didn't get around to reading. And then some that like, you know, Cassandra Clare came out with a new one. Like Sarah J Maas came out with a new one. But like, I didn't really think they were like the best of the year, you know. Just saying. Maybe leave me like a big name one that you really loved, and then like maybe underrated or like smaller author one that you really love. Always looking for more, even though my like Goodreads want to read list is like 300 books long. I hope all of you had a good holiday and a good new year. Mine was very quiet, and I used my holidays to catch up on my reading, which is good because I just made my Goodreads reading goal. And if you want to be friends on Goodreads and like see what I'm reading and how I'm doing, you can link down below. The lineup for January and February books looks really, really good, and I have a couple that I still need to catch up on, so there's just gonna be a lot of books. There's a lot of words that need devouring, and and I think I'm the person to do it. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!